On World News Tonight this Tuesday, those impeachment hearings, a judicial committee hopelessly divided. The largest company in the United States, it will be ExxonMobil together, survival of the fittest. Two important American cities on what to do about the gun violence. In one case, sue the gun makers. In the other, put a lock on the gun. And the return of silicone breast implants. But what about the clinical study?
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening. We begin tonight at the heart of American business. Late today, there was a very dramatic sign of how the Asian economic crisis can settle on these shores. The giant aerospace company Boeing, pretty much out of the blue, announced it is going to cut 48,000 jobs, many more than expected, and 38,000 of them next year. The reason is all too simple. Boeing has been gearing up to build scores of new planes for the Asian market, and now the Asian community cannot afford them. Here's ABC's Brian Rooney.
The Boeing company is in particular trouble with its 747 jumbo jet. Boeing will cut production of the 747 by 40% next year and will cut production even more if the market doesn't pick up. The problem in Asia is not only that customers can't afford the planes, people can't afford to fly in them. 238,000 people work for Boeing. The market for jets had been so good, Boeing had actually doubled production since 1996. Employment had reached a new high, and Boeing had asked its people to work overtime during the Thanksgiving holiday to meet production demand. Despite what is dismal news for its employees, Boeing said the company's cash flow looks good, and they'll still expect to have nearly $900 million to repurchase shares from Boeing stockholders. Brian Rooney, ABC News, Los Angeles.
And so we are reminded in this dramatic way that the global economy is about risk as well as opportunity. And that has everything to do with the creation today of the largest company in the United States. It'll be called ExxonMobil. As of today, a combined value of $250 billion. Together, they control 20% of the gasoline market in the U.S. Here's ABC's Betsy Stark.
The nation's #1 and #2 oil companies were driven to the altar by a slump in oil prices expected to last for years.
The oil companies, as well as the oil countries, have lost all control over prices. And so in the climate of falling prices, the only way that they can maintain profitability is to consolidate and to ruthlessly cut costs.
The merger is also expected to provide a big competitive advantage in what has become a very expensive search for new oil.
Now that we're finding oil in places like West Africa, Russia, and East Asia, it needs much more money.
And there should be plenty of it. The new ExxonMobil will be the largest oil company in the world, producing more than many oil-producing countries. Only Saudi Arabia and Iran will produce more barrels of crude per day. If size and scale are the greatest benefits, they are also the greatest obstacle. Regulators concerned about the concentration of gas stations and refineries in one company's control will be reviewing the deal closely. The two companies may be required to sell or close some of their gas stations, but most analysts expect the merger will be approved. Betsy Stark, ABC News, New York.
The new company will have a combined workforce of 123,000 employees, and 20,000 of them may lose their jobs. Here's ABC's Bob Jameson.
At Mobil's huge refinery in Beaumont, Texas today, workers who survived several waves of layoffs in recent years had a new worry.
If they want to cut here some more, it's going to be trouble. We're already cut way past where we should be.
Well, they're going to say that being competitive causes it, but I think it's corporate greed.
Industry analysts predict at least 10,000 jobs will be cut quickly, beginning with overlapping positions at the new company. For example, Exxon's headquarters in Irving, Texas, will be the new company's head office. That means much of Mobil's headquarters staff in Fairfax, Virginia, will be dispensable. Exxon's tech center is in Florham Park, New Jersey. Mobil's is 150 miles away in Paulsboro, New Jersey. The new company won't need both. Accountants, researchers, and engineers are all expected to lose jobs. For consumers, however, the merger will mean no dramatic change. Even here in New Jersey, where the two companies account for about 40% of retail gasoline sales, the price at the pump won't change. That's because the merger won't affect the price of crude oil. The main reason the price of gasoline is the lowest it's been in years. Bob Jameson, ABC News, East Rutherford, New Jersey.
Still on the money, another reminder of how competitive banking is these days. Now that Deutsche Bank has taken over Bankers Trust, the new company setting aside $400 million in incentive bonuses to stop its best people from defecting. 5,500 of the not-so-best people in New York and London are likely to be let go. And here's another case of trying to keep the best. After taking over Netscape last week, America Online is offering all 2,300 Netscape employees a month's pay as incentive to stay on until the purchase is fully complete. On Wall Street today, the Dow Jones Industrial Average was up just under 17 points to close at 91.33. On the NASDAQ, much better than yesterday, stocks were up 54 points. When we come back, that House Judiciary Committee, so much bad blood.
This is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings, brought to you by the American Plastics Council.
By the end of the week, 7 more lives will be saved. By the end of the day, 16 people who couldn't walk will. By the end of the hour, these special filters will help make 25,000 more gallons of water ready for drinking. And by the end of this message, 1 more premature baby will be protected. All of which is made possible with the help of a material we call plastic.
Heard the news about Cheerios? A new study has shown that 3 cups of Cheerios whole grain oats a day added to a low-fat diet can actually help reduce your cholesterol. The one and only Cheerios to help reduce your cholesterol.
Forget these. Remember this. Smile. Eat. Make a mess. Make a memory. Escape to Red Lobster.
Heading up the research team, I can't get slowed down by irregularity. My doctor recommended Metamucil, the only leading brand with 100% natural fiber. Keeps me regular, gently. So the only thing dragging is the ankle.
Metamucil, the doctor's natural choice for regularity.
In Washington today, it was sex, lies, and fundraising now, all of it familiar. Most of the day, the bitterly divided House Judiciary Committee heard testimony on the ramifications of perjury, including lying under oath about sex. And they also moved to officially extend the impeachment investigation to the president's fundraising in the 1996 election. Here's ABC's Linda Douglas.
Process, and it'll be part of the time.
Democrats on the Judiciary Committee charged that the party line vote to expand the impeachment inquiry to include the campaign finance scandal is proof that the investigation is running amok.
It's my worry that this is becoming an impeachment inquiry in search of a high crime.
This is the last desperate grasp of a group of people who are determined to impeach the president and haven't yet been able to put it together.
The Republican chairman brushed off their protests.
We're taking a look at this, and we're going to take a look, and it's justifiable that we take a look.
Republicans voted to subpoena secret reports written by the FBI director and the prosecutor who headed the task force investigating White House fundraising. Both have urged Attorney General Janet Reno to seek an independent counsel. Sources tell ABC News the Judiciary Committee got a tip that those reports might contain evidence of presidential crimes, though Justice Department sources say there is no smoking gun. But in the Monica Lewinsky case, Republicans charge there is evidence Mr. Clinton lied under oath, a crime for which ordinary citizens can be convicted. To make that point, they showcase 2 women convicted for lying in court about sex.
Because a president is not a king, he or she must abide by the same laws as the rest of us.
Legal experts debated just how serious a crime perjury is.
Even if there is perjury, is there a basis for impeachment?
We cannot excuse perjury in the most highly publicized case involving the most powerful official. We expect the oath to be taken seriously by future witnesses.
What this committee is doing is trivializing the rule of law by only focusing on perjury because they want to get a president of the opposite party.
You haven't the slightest idea of the agony that many of us go through over this question.
Today, the House Democratic leader called the impeachment process chaotic and called upon the new Republican leaders to step in. But many of them believe the president should be impeached. And they're telling their members to vote their conscience when impeachment comes to the full House, as they expect that it will. Peter?
Thanks very much, Linda. Sam Donaldson is with us tonight at the White House. Sam, impeachment before the full House. What's the White House think of that?
Well, Peter, the president's aides are not at all certain the president can win that vote on the House floor. They don't know. There's no vote count that they can get at this point, but he might not win, and that's why they're pushing very hard for an alternative punishment like censure. But that could be very tough to arrange. On the one hand, you have to convince the hardliners on Capitol Hill who are saying impeachment or nothing to go along, and you have to convince President and Mrs. Clinton to go along with something that's very stern. And Peter, if you know this president, you know he's not going to want to voluntarily sign on to helping brand himself in history as a real disgrace.
Thank you, Sam, very much. Sam Donaldson briefly at the White House tonight. Tough sledding ahead for all the parties. One other note from politics past. Auditors from the Federal Election Commission said today that both Mr. Clinton and Bob Dole illegally benefited from issue ads run by their political parties in the 1996 election. The auditors say the candidates illegally coordinated the party ads and in doing so violated government spending limits. They say the Clinton campaign should repay the government $7 million, the Dole campaign $17 million. Today is World AIDS Day, and depending on whether you are in the United States or in Africa, it's a very different picture. 40,000 more Americans are infected every year, but the death rate among people with AIDS in America dropped 47% last year. In Africa, 4 million new cases in sub-Saharan Africa this year alone. South Africa now has 10% of the world's HIV patients. The Clinton administration $1 for children around the world who are orphans because of AIDS. And the U.S. is also increasing funding for AIDS vaccine research to $200 million for next year. In a moment, going after the gun makers. We hope you'll stay with us.
Ugh, this head cold. I'm so clogged up, I just can't focus.
You okay? Get Tavus D. Just one works 12 hours versus 4 Tylenol cold pills. Tavus D clears your congestion. Be clear-headed, clear through your day with Tavus D.
I love being out in the sun. It makes me feel so alive. Now I really enjoy being outdoors because I've discovered this new lotion that's been awarded the Skin Cancer Foundation seal, designed for women our age. This SPF 15 formula, with intense vitamin-enriched moisture, helps protect maturing skin from future UV damage. It minimizes, even helps prevent, age spots. And the name? Pro-Vital Protective Moisture Lotion from Oil of Olay, proven to help you look revitalized.
It's no mystery why millions of people have moved to the digital home entertainment of DirecTV. Because DirecTV gives them more movies, sports, and a variety of programming they just can't get from cable. So what are you looking at? If it's not DirecTV, see your retailer for a demo today.
No more excuses. Zyban is here. Prescription medicine, only available from your doctor. Ask your doctor about Zyban or call 1-888-650-PILL to find out more. Zyban. Now you have another choice.
Shopping during the holidays can be really expensive. Buy something for Dad? Something for Sis?
Well, when are you going to do something for yourself? Well, during the Chevy Make Your Money Count year-end event. Treat yourself to the Chevy car or truck of your dreams. With low 1.9% APR financing or big cash back on a huge selection of Chevrolet vehicles, the perfect Chevy is waiting just for you. So do something for yourself this year at your Chevy dealer's Make Your Money Count year-end event. It's the season for you.
This week we're looking more closely at guns in the United States since the federal laws about buying one changed yesterday. More than 35,000 people are killed every year in America by guns, and cities have long struggled to figure out how to stop the violence. Tonight, the tale of two cities. Here's ABC's Bob Woodruff.
This year, during a 3-month undercover sting, the city of Chicago found that gun dealers were selling weapons to almost anyone. That is illegal. So 3 weeks ago, the city and Cook County did something dramatic. They sued the dealers and their suppliers, the gun manufacturers, for $433 million. They are accusing them of creating a public nuisance.
I hope this
will increase the number of civil lawsuits against the manufacturers, distributors, and those that are selling guns in our community. And you hit them in the pocket, you hit them the best. There's where you change their sales tactics.
In New Orleans, they took a different approach. They say the weapons that have flooded the streets are unreasonably dangerous, that anyone who picks one up can fire it, even small children.
If there were restrictions, technological restrictions on who could use the guns, a mere safety lock, other forms of technology, I think it would help save lives.
Paul Januzzo, a top lawyer for Glock, one of the world's leading gun manufacturers, says there is no such workable technology.
I don't know what they can mandate that we put on guns because, you know, the greatest fallacy with Mayor Morial's suit is it simply doesn't exist.
But Frank Brooks says it does.
Easy to use. There are no batteries involved. Where the gun goes, the lock goes. There are no keys.
Brooks invented this pistol lock that works by feel very quickly. Okay, the gun is locked. 1, 2, 3. About 2 or 3 seconds to shoot it. Gun control advocates say the Chicago and New Orleans lawsuits are so promising, a dozen more cities may sue in the next few months.
This is an unprecedented legal assault on the gun industry. This is like nothing this industry has ever faced before.
Even if the gun manufacturers win, just mounting a defense will be very costly.
Do these suits worry you? Certainly. Economically, they could be devastating.
For the opponents of guns, that, of course, is their aim. Bob Woodruff, ABC News, New Orleans.
In Texas today, they did not find the death row inmate Martin Garula, who broke out of prison last week. The prison administrator says he wants him dead or alive, and he doesn't much care which. There's a reminder for teenagers today, and those of us who remind teenagers. For the first time, the government has made it possible for 18-year-olds to register for the draft on the Internet. You can still go to the post office and fill out a card, but the government would like to make it easier. The Cuban government's going to make it easier to celebrate Christmas. They're going to put Christmas back on the official calendar permanently. Public celebrations were allowed last year as a gesture to the Pope. You may recall the government dropped Christmases as a holiday in 1969. It said to keep people working. Other people saw it as a way for the government to suppress religious expression. When we come back, an ABC News investigation on breast implants.
For Dodge Intrepid, we look beyond a great look and took cab-forward architecture to a new place. With a spacious cabin, a very useful pass-through, and a cavernous trunk, Intrepid is an automobile for today, wrapped in a shape for the next millennium. Well equipped for as low as $20,495.
All right, but there's one thing everybody in Washington can agree on.
That would be?
There's more heartburn than ever.
And more Republicans.
More burning, more pressure.
More pain.
Yeah, and it's time someone did more about it, too.
Alka-Seltzer does more, with more medicines than any antacid to speed more relief to your worst heartburn and pain.
Yeah, Alka-Seltzer. This country deserves more.
You sound like a Democrat.
Democrats just promise more. How does this marriage last?
Alka-Seltzer, the more medicine heartburn medicine.
Number 4, please.
This is just too good to keep to ourselves.
I know.
We have got to let the people know.
You're right. Everybody, I have an announcement. 10-10-3-2-1 is now better than ever.
How's that?
Now you save 50% on calls over 10 minutes.
Half off 10 minutes?
What about calls to Mexico? International calls over 10 minutes are half off too.
You forgot something. Double fries and make it fast.
A bunch of us here in Lafayette, Colorado, ate Quaker oatmeal for 30 days. It helped reduce my cholesterol 16 points. My bowling average is still a little lower than my cholesterol, but I'm working on it. Quaker oatmeal warms your heart and soul.
So I get this mail from Progressive saying they have a smart new way to shop for auto insurance.
Progressive, can I help you?
They give you their rates plus the rates of several other companies. I wonder whose rates are going to be lowest.
It looks like you could save over $200 if you went with...
What? You're an insurance company?
Hey, we know how hard it is to shop for auto insurance. A lot of times we're the lowest. Sometimes we're not.
That's not what I expected from an insurance company. And then he said, well, maybe you should.
Call 1-800-AUTO-PRO or your authorized independent agent.
Tonight we're going to revisit the continuously controversial subject of breast implants, silicone breast implants. Today a panel of scientists appointed by a federal judge said it found no proven links between silicone implants and the illnesses which hundreds of thousands of women who have sued the implant manufacturers say that they suffer from. It was on this and other safety issues that the Food and Drug Administration banned implants for most women 6 years ago. We're taking a closer look tonight because some manufacturers would obviously like to have their silicone implants on the market again. And some women do continue to receive them as part of an ongoing clinical study to determine whether they are safe enough to lift the embargo. Which is why this report from ABC's John McKenzie is an important contribution to the debate.
8 years ago, before Kim Hoffman got married, she wanted a new look, one that included silicone breast implants. But after the operation, one breast hardened. Then a few years later, the other developed a bubble.
2 plastic surgeons recommended I replace the implants with a new silicone product, a new silicone implant.
By that time in 1994, the FDA had already banned the general use of silicone implants for breast enlargement. But it did allow their continued use for special medical needs, for women who had lost a breast to cancer or severely injured a breast, or those needing to replace the failed implants. What Kim Hoffman didn't know was that the FDA has had concerns about how many of those implants are made. The Mentor Corporation's plant in Irving, Texas is a major producer of breast implants. Government documents obtained by ABC News show that over the last 12 years, since 1986, the FDA has repeatedly accused the company of inadequate quality controls. For example, the FDA found potential manufacturing problems with the shell that could result in implants more likely to rupture, potential packaging defects that could lead to implants becoming contaminated and causing infection, incomplete inventory records that could allow defective implants from the assembly line to be shipped out as implants for sale. The FDA said there was no proof these problems were causing harm, but it considered the problem serious enough to pressure the company into a legal agreement to improve its procedures by the end of this month. Mentor executives declined to be interviewed on camera, but did say the company expects to meet that deadline. Making sure the implants are made properly has been just one of the FDA's concerns. Another is the complications that can arise. So the FDA told the company to track the health of any woman who receives an implant, to design a silicone study that would determine whether, in fact, these implants are safe.
This study, and I have that in quotation marks, was so loosely constructed that it was doubtful that it could gather any meaningful data.
At St. John's Hospital in Springfield, Missouri, members of its Institutional Review Board objected to the study on 2 grounds: that women were not adequately warned of the possible risks of silicone implants, and that admission requirements were so broad, almost any woman could get one just by joining the study.
The only thing that we could really think of was that this was some sort of political device to try to keep these implants on the market.
The company says it was following guidelines approved by the FDA and that its implants are safe. Just months after receiving her replacement implants, Kim Hoffman required more than a dozen medications.
I had tremors, I had sores broke out all over my head, I had a rash on my chest that left scars. I was so fatigued I had to rest before being able to walk down a flight of stairs.
Hoffman's health deteriorated so rapidly that within 8 months she had to have her second pair of implants removed. While it wasn't proven the implants were to blame, her doctor didn't report any of her problems to the company, so none of it was recorded in the study. When Hoffman later obtained a copy of her file, it was marked, "No complaint."
If the very complications that the study is monitoring are not being recorded, then the data is flawed.
The silicone safety study is still going, and Mentor is still making its silicone implants. John McKenzie, ABC News, Springfield, Missouri.
Tomorrow night, we're going to revisit the alternative to silicone, saline. Back with the final thought in just a moment.
Gosh, I just went to use the phone.
You say once you got back, your wife was gone.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
What?
Have you checked the hot enchilada?
Oh, no. Millicent gets terrible heartburn.
Not this time.
What's that?
Looks like the remains of an individually wrapped Pepsid AC chewable.
Introducing Pepsid AC Chewables, the first chewable to stop heartburn before it starts.
Millicent? Is that you?
Start living heartburn-free with new Pepsid AC Chewables.
The North Star system. Performance and technology that set Cadillac apart from every other luxury car in the world. Now experience the difference during the Cadillac Performance Drive. With the 1999 Seville, with the power and control of the North Star system for just $549 a month. A powerful way to set yourself apart during the Cadillac Performance Drive. See your Cadillac dealer today.
I'm 64. Is there anything I can do to stop bone loss?
Absolutely. Here's proof. In a landmark clinical study, Caltrate actually stopped bone loss in women at risk for osteoporosis, whatever your age.
It's never too late for Caltrate.
Life's an adventure because you're over 50 and still exploring. So take the Centrum made just for you, Centrum Silver. With age-essential nutrients specially adjusted to keep pace with your changing nutritional needs. Centrum Silver, it's a great time to be silver.
Danny Sorensen, Lieutenant.
He's Bobby's replacement, and no one will let him forget it.
I'm sorry for your loss.
You don't know anything about my loss.
Rick Schroeder joins the squad.
Partners are supposed to trust each other. That develops in time.
All new NYPD Blue, ABC tonight.
Just a brief review of our top story today. The giant aerospace company Boeing announced it will cut 48,000 jobs, 38,000 of them next year. Boeing has been planning to build scores of new planes for the Asian market. And now the Asian community cannot afford them. So goes the global economy. Finally this evening, the irresistible appeal whenever the British royal family turns it on to impress a foreign visitor. And today, something we had not seen before. The President of Germany, Roman Herzog, was with Queen Elizabeth on the way to Windsor Castle in her carriage. The Queen's household cavalry was in the procession with all of its usual magnificence and precision. And then one of the horses suddenly spooked for some reason and first bumped the Queen's carriage. His rider quickly pulled him to the side of the road. The horse was not seriously hurt, and neither was the rider. The Queen and the German President went on to the castle and had an otherwise interesting day. As we said, we hadn't seen it before. And that's our report on World News Tonight. Later on Nightline, perjury and impeachment. I'm Peter Jennings. We hope you have a good evening, and we'll see you tomorrow. Good night.
Tomorrow, are you safer in your home with or without a gun? Protection or peril? Watch ABC's World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
This has been a presentation of ABC News. More Americans get their news from ABC News than from any other source. ABC News, now always on.
A lot of people think acting is all fun and games. What they don't understand is how grueling it can be. For example, this scene, we shot 15 times.
By the way, you're the greatest lover I've ever had.
Work.
Mid City, followed by Sports Night, 9/8 Central. See you tonight.
Whatever.
Now, News 2 at 6. First, fast, accurate.
When will all this be over?
Well, soon for some, not so soon for others. Just as one project is finished, another begins. Good evening, everyone. Those orange barrels aren't gone. They're just being moved.
As we first told you last night, work along a large section of I-24 is complete. But News 2's Melissa Penry tells us traffic frustration isn't over for all Rutherford County commuters. Is that right?
That's right. We're here along Interstate 24 at Old Hickory Boulevard, and as you can see, traffic is moving along just fine. But if you're one of these 100,000 people using this road every day, don't breathe a sigh of relief